All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are going to unpack a totally different way of thinking about learning. About those moments of frustration, and maybe more importantly, about the brilliance that you already have inside you. And look, this isn't just another study hack. This is a complete rewiring of how we understand, well, understanding itself.
You know the scene, right? It's 2 in the morning, you've got a big exam in a few hours, you're staring at a textbook, and the words just look like scrambled nonsense. And then that voice kicks in, that thought just echoing in your head. It's this feeling of total intellectual despair, where it feels like your own mind is a locked door and you've lost the key.
Of course you have. I mean, who hasn't? We've all been there. That feeling of just hitting a brick wall, of being absolutely convinced that you're just not smart enough. It's become this universal part of learning that we're all just supposed to accept. But what if that feeling is a complete and total lie?
What if that gut-wrenching moment has absolutely nothing to do with your actual intelligence and everything to do with a broken, outdated model of education that we've all been raised in? What if the problem isn't you? What if the problem is the system's entire assumption about what learning even is?
Okay, so let's get into the good stuff. We're going to talk about the truth. We're moving away from that old, broken model into a brand new paradigm. It's called the recognition model. And this is a huge shift. We're going from seeing learning as something being put into you to seeing it as something being activated from within you. Now, check this out. The old model, the lie, basically treats you like an empty bucket. The teacher's job is to just pour information in, and your job is to, what? Just sit there and get filled up. But the recognition model, it says something totally different. It sees you as already having the native capacity to get it. The teacher's real job isn't to fill you up. It's to create the right conditions for you to recognize the answer yourself, to help you remove the obstacles that are blocking your own insight. And this right here, this is it. This is probably the single most important idea in this entire explainer. Your intelligence, it's not the thing that's in question. It is always there. That struggle, that 2 a.m. frustration, that's just a signal. It's a blinking red light telling you that the obstacles, the constraints, have just gotten too big for your natural ability to shine through. And this whole new way of thinking can be boiled down to this one beautifully simple equation. Now, I know it looks like math, but trust me, this is the key that unlocks everything about your own learning. It says your expressed capacity equals your native capacity minus the constraints. So let's just break this down real quick. Your native capacity, that's CN, that's your inherent brilliance. And here's the kicker. It's a constant. It's always there 100%. The constraints, CL, that's all the junk getting in the way. And your express capacity, CE, well, that's what you can actually do or show in a given moment. So the entire game of learning isn't about trying to increase your brilliance. That's already maxed out. It's about getting really good at identifying and removing the constraints so that brilliance can finally come out and play. And these constraints, they're not some abstract idea. No, they are very real, tangible things. We're talking about that anxiety that just completely hijacks your brain, or that nagging belief that you're just not a math person, or, trying to tackle something super complex when you've only had 4 hours of sleep. These are not character flaws. They are concrete problems that we can actually identify and solve. Now, this is where it gets really fascinating. Let's see how this all plays out in that critical moment of learning. That moment where the exact same challenge can either lead to this incredible aha moment of insight, or it can create real, lasting learning trauma. And the difference between the two is razor thin. I mean, just think about that for a second. The content itself is almost irrelevant. A calculus problem is just a calculus problem. The thing that determines whether it becomes a moment of growth or a moment of shutdown is the context. It's everything that's happening around you when you encounter it. So here in scenario A, we have what we'd call a productive stretch. You can see the numbers are pretty healthy. The ground, which basically means you feel safe, you feel supported, is high. Reflection, your ability to think about your own thinking without panicking, is also high. And the challenge itself, yeah, it's tough, but it feels manageable. And what's the result? A breakthrough. Oh, I get it now. But now, look at scenario B. Same student, same material, but the context is a total disaster. The ground has collapsed, you're exhausted, you feel alone, reflection is gone, you're not thinking about your panic anymore, you are your panic, and that same level of challenge now feels completely impossible, and that leads to total shutdown and the creation of that toxic belief, I'm just too stupid for this.
This brings us to this really powerful concept called pharmacon. It's this idea that any teaching tool, any challenge, any question, it can be both a medicine that heals and builds you up and a poison that harms and traumatizes you. The tool itself isn't good or bad. Its effect depends entirely on the context, on how it's used.
So, how can you tell the difference in the moment? Well, you can look for the signs. If it feels like medicine, your confidence is actually building. Your questions are getting sharper, more specific. You might even find some humor in the struggle. But if it's poison, your confidence is just draining away. You stop asking questions altogether. Everything just feels rigid, stuck, and frustrating. So here's the whole point. We can completely change our relationship with learning. We can stop seeing that moment of struggle as a sign of personal failure and instead see it for what it is, a signal. A signal to adjust the conditions, to start reducing the constraints, so we can finally honor our own native brilliance.
For pretty much our entire lives, whenever we get stuck, that little voice in our head starts asking a question. And it's a question that is fundamentally flawed because it's based on that old lie, the transmission model.
We've been asking, am I smart enough for this? See, that question assumes your capacity is the thing that might be lacking. The new question, the right question, is, which constraints can we reduce today? This question assumes your capacity is a constant, and the obstacles are the only things that can change. And that one simple reframe, that changes everything. It moves you from a place of self-judgment to a place of compassionate, effective problem solving. So here is your new game plan. This is a practical protocol for the very next time you feel stuck. First, just pause. Seriously, stop trying to brute force your way through it. Second, identify. Ask yourself, what's the main thing getting in my way right now? Am I tired? Am I anxious? Do I feel totally alone in this? Just name it. And third, reduce. Take one small, tiny action to lessen that constraint. Take a few deep breaths. Close the book and take a nap. Send a text to a friend asking for help. Because at the end of the day, true, deep understanding isn't something that can be handed to you. No teacher can pour it into your brain. All they can do is help create the right conditions to catalyze the process so that you can have that incredible aha moment where you finally see it for yourself. So I'll leave you with this question. And this isn't just about your next exam. This is about how you approach every challenge in your life. Look at your work, your projects, your learning. What is one obstacle? One single constraint that's blocking your native brilliance from coming through? And what is one small thing you can do right now, today, to reduce it?